So is that a new feature, Bill, that the meeting is telling you that it's being recorded when you join?
Apparently so. This is the first time I've heard it too. They must have added it.
Progress.
Gerald.
Hello, all.
Hello.
Okay, I see one person whose last four digits of their phone number is 8381.
Gerald Burgess.
Okay,
I don't have
Gerald.
any comments.
Okay,
I don't
that's
have
fine.
anything. Thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we have a quorum here and it's 6 o'clock. And right now Gerald is the only one who has logged in, and he says he doesn't want to make a public comment. So does it look like anybody else is trying to come on the meeting, Bill?
I can't see anybody right now trying to come on.
Okay.
Oh,
Well-
yes. Matthew Whittington's come on.
Okay. Matt, would you like to make a public comment or speak to an agenda item?
Not tonight, thank you.
Okay. And somebody else? Okay, we've got somebody who's calling themselves Madeline Loop. Did you want to make a public comment or speak to an agenda item? It looks like they've disappeared. Okay. So you're not seeing the Madeline Loop person anymore, Bill?
No.
Okay. Okay, well, oops, oh, here comes David Flores. Okay. David, would you like to make a public comment or speak to an agenda item?
Oh, hi, Catherine. Yeah, I have a public comment and agenda item 3, 4, 3, 4, and 7.
Okay.
Let's put 5 on there as well.
Okay. Well, why don't we start with you, since I think you might be the only person. So Jimmy, are you going to be my timer tonight?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're going to start with your public comment.
Go ahead, David.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
So I wanted to encourage the citizens that listen to this public comment to go back to last week's meeting and listen to the statement that Catherine had Art read. I think it shows a lack of leadership. I think it's something that should have been read by Catherine or said by Catherine. It was only a week ago. I believe that a true leader would have said it themselves. It was I was a little taken back that they would ask, that that she wants to protect the money of the district and the people, and wanted Linda to pay back the money when there are so many thousands of dollars of legal fees from Anwana and Louis Zervigon's legal fees from his influence in the last election, that they should be, you know, Catherine, you should be worried about those funds that are being wasted. You know, I think Linda's the only one that actually pays attention to the money and where it's going and the mistakes. And I think that it was just a little cowardly, and in my opinion. I'm done with my public comment.
Okay, agenda item number 3.
The Parks Committee put on an event about the future of our parks and invited the community to join. They also put out a survey. In that meeting at Anderson Mill West Park, there was a kids input for the kids in their neighborhood. The only kids that I saw that were there were the Megan Dudo clique and the people with kids that are her friends. I want to know why other kids weren't invited. We're so close to the school. It got out right at school, and there was only about 6 kids that were there that Megan brought along, and I brought 4 along because my daughter just got out of school, and I was able to tell her to come and put her input in with the kids on our street. So it was kind of disappointing that Megan didn't reach out to the school and have more influence. If she's really wants community input, she would have reached out and had more participation. The survey, I think, is flawed. You know, I think that it doesn't show a true representation of what our neighborhood wants. I think the numbers are going to be way off because there's no way to stop somebody from voting twice or 3 times or 4 times. So I think it's something that the board needs to kind of reconsider and look at again is, okay, was this done appropriately? Does each household or each person get one say in it, not being able to do it multiple times? So that's it on parks.
Okay, agenda item 4, the audit committee.
I was a little disappointed when Linda was taken off the audit committee. I've been participating for 2 years, going to every single meeting and listening in and learning a lot. In these 2 years, nobody ever caught mistakes or questioned where the money's going. They just rubber stamped it, paid the bills, business as usual, just pay, pay, pay. Linda, since she came on, was thorough in her job, and she made me proud of an elected official that looks out for the tax dollars of the people. So I expect you, Catherine, to be just as diligent in checking these invoices and making sure that mistakes are not done on that. So that's it.
Okay, so agenda item 5, the rate order.
The rate order, this is something that is still new to me and I'm learning as I go. The last meeting, there was a comment about the trash and how it's separated out. And it was kind of, I heard Bill say that we don't pay taxes on the garbage that we have to word it. So to me, it's just a little suspicious on why we wouldn't do it the right way. And if we have to pay taxes on the trash, we pay the taxes on the trash. I just think it's an example of the shady things that go on in our mud district. And I think that the trash should be paid out of our taxes, our tax money, not in our bill. I think a lot of our residents would rather have a lower water bill and use the budget money to pay for the trash. But I'm gonna look into paying, if we're supposed to pay taxes on the trash, and I think I have a call in already to the state comptroller, so stay tuned for that one. Number 7, it was the single director asking for information. I think Bill's said it numerous times that all directors are able to get information from their vendors. The vendors have to disclose the same information to one board member than all the others. So it was just kind of I think it's just a plot to block Linda between the 3 ladies on our board, is to stop her from being able to look and find mistakes and do her job. So to the public that's listening in, just pay attention to what they do and how they run their business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Has anybody else jumped in during that public comment? It doesn't sound like it. Okay, or it doesn't look like it anyway. Okay, with that said, I am going to close agenda item number 1, which is the public comments, and I'm going to go to agenda item number 2. Okay, so I talked with Michael Luff this afternoon, and it's my understanding that we don't have any outstanding invoices or approvals that have to be addressed at this meeting. Am I understanding that correctly, Mackenzie?
I believe so. He didn't inform me of any ahead of the meeting, so
Okay.
normally he would have.
Okay, so then we're just going to go to agenda item 2B, which is a review and approval of the annual consumer confidence report. And I think, Bill, you've got this.
Wait, before you start, Bill, I would like to let Catherine know that, Catherine, there were corrections to some of the checks last week, but the board, through their consent, gave Michael permission to reissue them out of the manager's account. There were
Okay.
mistakes in the billing.
Okay.
Catherine,
Okay.
this is actually Mackenzie's item.
Oh, okay. Mackenzie, go ahead. Take it away.
I believe you guys can see my screen. You can, right?
Yes, I can.
Yes,
Okay.
it's the drinking water quality report.
Correct. We do this every year. It is your 2020 drinking water quality report. This is something that our compliance team works alongside TCEQ to get done every year. We bring this to you guys once it's been completed on our end and sent off to TCEQ, and then they provide us this report back. And then we then take this, bring it to you guys, and then once it's approved by the board, we let them know how it's then distributed out, and then we move on from there, getting those notices over to TCEQ. Nothing out of the ordinary this year. Everything was in compliance, which is what we like to see. And these are all things that we go in and we do tests for, and we send all of this information off to TCEQ. They compile it all together to make their report. So nothing of notating here as far as anything out of the ordinary. So it's pretty standard. And unless you guys have any questions, then it's just a standard formality to present this to you guys. We'll have it approved, and then
And
other
do
than
we,
that,
we include it in, do we mail it and then put it on the website? Is that what the
Yes,
standard
correct.
process is? Okay.
correct. Because you are over 500 users, they require it be mailed out with the water bills, and then you require it being posted somewhere as well as made available upon request.
Okay. So is the plan then to put it in the next bill mailing?
Yes, we would supply it in the next bill.
Okay. Okay, so just to clarify for me, is this based off of a number of different tests, or is this just one test that we're required to do at one point, or is follow what I'm
It's
saying?
it's a compilation of data from 2020 that we collect throughout the year, and then some of them are single tests that are done for this report specifically.
Got it.
So it's all a compilation of all of that sent into TCEQ. They evaluate everything we send in, and then they generate this report.
Okay. Okay, so does somebody want to make a motion that we accept this report and include it in the next invoice mailing?
Before we do, Mackenzie, you scrolled so quickly and the writing is so tiny. Was there anything that was not in compliance?
No, and that's what I had stated. Everything in the entire report was in compliance. So that's this column right here.
I
You'll
see
see
it.
yeses across the board. It's just the 2 pages, and this one tends to have more information. So that's why I scrolled down. But no, everything was in compliance. So you guys are good.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think, was it 2019 when we had when Austin had the water notice because of the turbidity?
I don't think so, because I was here for the 2019 one and y'all were in compliance as well. It may have been prior to that.
Well, no, I was just thinking that, Austin, a whole bunch of places ran into problems with water because of the turbidity. We
Oh,
were,
okay.
because of where our water came from with Cedar Park, it wasn't an issue for us.
Correct.
sort of
Y'all have
curious-
different water sources.
Yeah, I'm just sort of curious as to how that affected this report. I'm just thinking off on a tangent here. Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
So I'll try it. You want to make
Okay.
a motion to accept the water quality results and mail these out to all residents in the next water bill?
Yeah, I think that's good. I'll second that. Oh, okay, let's modify it. We also need to, let's modify the, we also need to post it on the website. Is there an appropriate place on the website, Megan or Beth, that this type of reporting goes?
It would typically just go under our normal documents section. But if the information management committee has a specific place for it, we can definitely put it there.
Well, I think is,
It's just one of those documents you have to make available along with the many others that we do. And it doesn't really have a specific page that it belongs on for the website. So we would typically just keep it in the documents.
Okay. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and call the vote. Linda,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and I vote yes too. Okay. And okay, so is that it then for 2A and B? I think so. Okay, agenda item 3, we have some Parks Committee business that we need to do. I'm going to hand this over to Megan and Beth.
The first item, just an update where we are with replacing plants that died due to the storm. If you recall, Scott from Sunscape had provided at the end of March a really long detailed report of everything we lost. It was going to add up to quite a bit. And then in April, the board approved the Parks Committee to authorize the Parks Committee to spend up to $12,000 to do some of those, start with some of those replacements. So Beth and I had a talk with Scott and kind of updated him on what we had to spend this first pass. And we have a meeting planned for next week. Sorry, my dog is making noise. A meeting planned for next week with him to go out and he's gonna talk to us about what how he thinks we could get the best bang for our buck with that first 12,000. And of course, we talked to him about not wanting to plant anything that didn't fare well in the storm, including the whale's tongue, and kind of focusing on the things that he thinks are going to do the best going forward. Of course, we can't predict that entirely. There's all sorts of variables, but but that's what we're striving for. So that's where we are. Hopefully we'll have a more detailed update at the June meeting after we have a chance to kind of have Scott help us come up with a more detailed plan for how to spend the 12,000.
Okay.
The other thing he mentioned is that they're having a lot of trouble because the nurseries can't keep up with the demand of everybody replacing their plants. And so in terms of actually doing the planting, it's going to partially depend on when they can get the plants that we actually want.
Thank you.
So,
I was gonna add that
Yeah.
same, either when we do it, we may not get it right away.
so it may be a little bit, but it's in the works.
So does it make sense then that we should just plan on this being a fall project that gets picked up?
Well, I think it sounds like it's something that we can get started on. One of the things that Scott was suggesting is that we sort of focus on cleaning up and replanting a lot of the corners, because then that way we can go throughout the district and kind of beautify all around the district and not just focus on one spot. And a lot of the corner plantings are drought tolerant, so it doesn't matter if you plant those in the summer.
Okay.
So, it's really the trees that we want to, wait till the cooler weather.
Okay.
So it sounds like as long as we can get the plants that we want, it's something that can, move forward in the next few months.
So, so how poorly did our corners fare?
Anywhere where there was the barrel cactus,
Okay.
totally croaked. Any of the agaves did not do well.
Okay.
So, he sort of has his, he hears all the talk from other landscapers about, what people are saying seem to fare the best, what are good substitutes for those, all sorts of predictions about what that means for this year of blooming and all sorts of stuff. So he's, I think he'll do his best to get stuff in there that is gonna do as well as we can, hope for or predict.
Okay. Okay, so 3B is trimming of trees on district property. Do we have a proposal by an arborist?
Yeah, Mackenzie, did you have that for tonight?
As far as the copy of it?
Yeah, I didn't know if I didn't know if we were going to show that tonight.
I didn't think we were.
Yeah, I didn't think we were either, because I think
Okay, it's just on the agenda. If you're not ready to talk about it, that's fine.
We can skip it.
Okay. Okay. So are we good then from a report from the Parks Committee?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So agenda item 4 is report from the Audit Committee. And if I remember correctly, the Audit Committee is Megan and Linda, correct?
Yeah.
And Bill,
Yeah,
this
so-
is,
So let me interject. I actually put this on the agenda, and I put it under the audit committee because I thought it would be appropriate, but as it turns out, you'll see when we discuss it, it's actually going to be the investment officers that'll be mostly involved in this. So I think it would be helpful for us to go through it as a board because it's a fairly complex policy. So I'm going to share my screen if that's okay and try to bring it up. Let's see. Okay, can everyone see the tax exempt bond tax compliance guidelines?
yeah,
No, we
right
see
now,
your email.
yeah, we're still looking at your email.
Let me try it again. Let's see if it goes by. Now, can you see the guidelines?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So last year, during our remote meetings, obviously during the pandemic, we adopted this policy on May 20. This is a much more complex, comprehensive policy than we had in the past. It was the result of recommendations from bond counsel, which your bond counsel is Jerry Kyle at ORIC, the special bond counsel. Just to comply with all of the federal regulations, the IRS regulations, he recommended a fairly detailed policy. And what the policy is related to are the IRS rules regarding arbitrage and excess earned interest. Those relate to bonds issued by the district. And I think we covered this before. The basics are that you issue bonds at a certain interest rate and they're tax exempt to the holders. They don't pay income tax on the money. So you get a lower interest rate and it's exempt. If you take that money as a district and use it for other purposes or improper purposes, or if you don't spend all the money quick enough and make excess interest on it, then you might have to comply with the IRS, file a report, maybe pay back some money, which we actually did at one point. I think maybe it's more than a year ago. We had, after a review, did have to pay some money to the IRS because we made too much money on the surplus bond price. Anyway, this process that's designed in here is to be sure that on an ongoing basis, we're reviewing those issues. The district has hired a company that does review your bond issues, files IRS reports, and has been doing it for a while. Their next agreement or proposal will come up, I think, in July, because your bonds are on a 5-year cycle. So you've seen reports from them before. They do that work. That's the key part of this policy. But also there are some other record keeping and other duties that when we set this up, we put on your investment officers. And right now, your investment officers, the board had a resolution passed that made the investment officers Linda and Beth. So when we read through this policy, they're actually responsible for implementing and following it. And at the very end, I'll go there first because that's an important part. Here in paragraph 9, annual review, the designated tax compliance officer, up in the beginning of the guidelines says that is your investment officer, parentheses officers, because we had 2 previously and we appointed 2, which you can have more than one. Says we'll coordinate an annual review process to investigate, monitor, assure, and document compliance with tax exempt bond tax requirements. So part of this policy is every year, your investment officers will do an annual review of the process to make sure we're following it. So it doesn't really require a board vote. It's going to require your investment officers to do the review. Of course, we will help them. And Linda already had a bunch of questions about, what does this mean and how do we go about that? Coming back up to the top, and I won't drag this out too long, but we talk about capable advisors. Well, your capable advisors, that's your bond counsel, your financial advisors, and we do have who they are. We have Chris Lane and Jerry Kyle. They get involved in issues from time to time, tax rates, and do work on your bond compliance. Here on paragraph 3, we state the investment officers are the designated tax compliance officers. So there's that definition that I talked about. And all of these relate to bonds. So you have some of your bonds are paid off in the past. They're not a real issue here, especially if they've been paid off for 3 years. You don't have to keep the records any longer. But you do have some that are not paid off, and this applies to them. So some of these procedures relate to, or it says here on the date of issue. Well, you haven't issued any new bonds. I think since 2011, you had some refunding. So some of these procedures don't really apply at the moment. Expenditures, how the bonds were, we have records, and our office has maintained those records on your bond proceeds, so that how they were expended, we can provide that. Record keeping, Linda asked about this. I think most all of the more current reports and records on the bonds have either been scanned or were digital to begin with. So organizing those for your investment officers to review probably will not be a major task. And it probably is a good idea to be sure that they're all organized properly and maintained. And we probably ought to, certainly once you have your shared drive up, it probably ought to be put on there. In the meantime, and maybe we need to put them somewhere other than our office. And then we go on to the calculation of the rebate. All these calculations are really done by what's called here your rebate provider. And that is the company that we've engaged, the district has engaged to do these reports I mentioned. So when it says, you know, investment officer is going to do this, we have companies or people or consultants to help them. So that can be designated to be done, but they ought to oversee the process. And I'm going through this quickly because I'm sure that it'll take some time for your investment officers to read it and they'll have questions. And then we talk about record keeping. You'll see it includes life of the bonds, including refunding bonds plus 3 years. So that means once they're completely paid off, you still have to keep the records for 3 years. Then after that, under this policy, you could dispose of them. We would look at your record retention policy to be sure that that's the case under that policy as well. Use of bond proceeds. This whole section talks about private business use, and this district's never engaged in that, so that's really not applicable to you. But we do need to be sure it's not happening. Any correction of violations, if we find anything, they get reported and fixed, I guess, or corrected. And then the record keeping, tax compliance training. It does say here, and I'm not sure which educational programs, it doesn't say how often, it just says they should attend regular training or educational forums necessary to stay up to date. So we probably would need to investigate that. Maybe a bond attorney or a financial advisor could recommend some, and then the investment officers could decide if they want to take them. It doesn't say every year.
Let me interject here. Are you for number 8, this tax compliance training? Are you saying that this is in addition to the training programs that they're taking because there are designated investment officers?
Yeah, this would be specific to tax exempt bond tax requirements. The investment training is different than that. So this probably would be different training. So anyway, this is a new policy we adopted last year. It does require an annual review by the investment officers. So I put it on the agenda because I knew an annual review was required, but on the agenda, I imply it's a board annual review.
Okay.
It's not really required, but we did check with bond counsel and ask him, do we need to change this policy at all this year? Has anything changed that we need to incorporate? And he said no. So
okay, so let me see if I'm understanding. Our policy says that we need to have an annual review. This isn't and this is something that the audit committee needs to do. And are they supposed to then bring the results?
The investment officers.
The investment officers are supposed to do. They do that as the subcommittee, so to speak. And then do they bring the review results to a board meeting?
They should. I mean, it's certainly going to be something that gets documented.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, you're telling basically Beth and Linda is they've got some homework that they need to do in June. That they need to meet with.
Well, it says annual. So
annual in the sense that they're going to have to start working on this. That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean.
Certainly this summer.
Okay. So what's our timeline then for them to? We don't have any timeline. So if we make a commitment to have our review done and have it be presented to the board in July, does that make sense?
Not to me. Not to me, because it's new. It's the first time through. What if it takes longer?
Yeah.
And
No, I'm okay with that.
I think I'd be comfortable so long as we did it before the end of this fiscal year.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought maybe this was something that needed to be done in a short timeline. You're saying this project, so to speak, just needs to be complete by the end of September. How does that sound?
Yeah, I would be comfortable with that. Until,
Okay, okay. I understand the timeline now.
I would be more comfortable with that too,
Okay.
especially if there's training involved up front. First, we have to find the training. Bill, do we have to
yeah.
be trained first?
Well, I think it'd probably be helpful if we got you some training before you did your review. You might understand the issues better.
Sure. And do you want me to look for that, or are you looking for that?
I haven't done anything yet, so you're welcome to. You're welcome to also, you and Beth are welcome to contact Jerry Kyle
Well,
and Chris Lane to maybe they have some recommendations. If you want to go ahead and seek that on your own, that's fine. Or if you would like me to do it, I'll be happy to.
Well, that was going to be what I was going to suggest is that we reach out to our expert consultants in this area.
And
I
Jerry
don't
Kyle is,
I don't mind contacting them. I'm okay with that.
and Jerry Kyle is which one?
He's the bond attorney with Oric, the law firm's Oric.
And the records, Bill, that you keep in your office, did you say they were electronic or paper?
Well, certainly all the reports from the rebate analysis firm, they're all scanned electronic. And I think we've scanned a lot of the other records because we had to give them to the rebate consultants. So I can get with Allison in the morning, but I'm pretty sure they're probably, at least everything recent is very scanned.
So we only need to look at the existing bond and maybe the one we just paid off.
Yeah.
If it's 3 years, that would be correct.
Anything that's been paid off more than 3 years, we don't have to worry about documenting.
Oh, so we only have one really that we need to focus on.
But
There's only one
okay.
bond left.
One or two, yeah, one or two. I don't know how recently the other one got paid off.
It's
Well,
two.
let me interject something here. We did this last year because that's when we realized that we had some arbitrage exposure, etc. So,
Well, no, Catherine, this policy was not a result of that. We actually had the other consultant start before this policy was adopted.
okay.
Because it had gotten to the point where all the districts were using rebate consultants because the IRS had, started some audits. This policy is actually a reflection of changes in federal law. The IRS adopted additional requirements and federal law was changed. So our bond attorney advised you really need to have a more formal policy, more detailed.
Right. The point that I was actually trying to get to was the whole timeline of this audit. We don't have to go back to the beginning. What is the time period that we need to, that actually needs to be reviewed? Because there's no point in re-evaluating a period that has already been evaluated in a prior audit. So does that mean we only have to do the past year? We're looking at 2019 and part of 2020. Yeah. Are you following where I'm going with this?
Sort of. It doesn't work quite like that. So your consultant, the rebate consultant, it's really a 5-year cycle on your unpaid bonds, any bonds unpaid until they're paid off. This procedure we're talking about relates to any unpaid bonds and bonds that got paid off in the last 3 years. So we're not going to go back. We don't have to go back to the beginning of time with all the bond issues in the past that were paid off. But I think comments been that I think there are 2 that would fall in this category. So
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so what I heard you say is that we really only need to document for the past 3 years on the bonds, but then on this one, you're saying for the past 5 years. So that's where I'm a little bit confused.
Okay, well, yeah, there's two different things. The rebate consultants do a 5-year report because that matches what the IRS is looking for.
Okay,
This policy, it really applies to bonds that have either not been paid off, so they would be part of your review every year until they're paid off, and
Right.
and bonds that had been paid off less than 3 years ago. So they're really separate procedures involved.
okay,
Yeah, but we've only got,
2.
no, I guess I'm thinking of it purely from a dollar point of view. I mean, the dollars were looked at for 2019. How much money did we earn on our bonds in 2019? Okay, now we need to do it for 2020. Nothing has changed for 2019. That is already done. I'm trying to
Yeah,
understand.
they're two different things. One
Okay.
is the rebate company does a 5-year report. So let's say they did a 5-year report last year on one of your bond issues. That report, which you're equating to an audit, which is similar to an audit, that report and study by your consultant is not necessary for another 5 years. And if the bond's paid off, it's not necessary at all. This other process is really a review, but it's more of a record keeping, is what we're talking about here. So part of those records will be all these rebate analysis reports are part of those records. So it's really two different things at the same time. We're not having the rebate analysis done every single year on every single bond issue. You're correct there. But this compliance documentation evaluation by your investment officers does need to occur every year. And I think the first time we do this, it'll be probably complicated and take some time. I think after that, it'll be fairly routine.
Okay. What kind of resources are we going to need for Infomark? Because they're going to have the details of what the interest earnings that relate to the analysis is, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we'll need very much on this year. They come into play when the rebate company is doing its work, and they've supplied that before.
Okay. But theoretically, they only have to, since, like I said, the money earned has not changed historically. We just need to gather up the new transactions that fall into the reporting period and just add them to the analysis.
I think that's reasonably accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, since it's
Okay.
the first time going through this particular guideline, it might be a little more complicated than that, but I think that's reasonably accurate.
Okay. So, do we need to make a motion for anything? I think we just have this understanding that we have this project that has to be completed.
Correct. I don't think there's any board action required.
Okay. Okay.
And of course, we'll be available to work with the investment officers to assist however is needed.
Okay. Bill, can you stop sharing, please, then?
Yes.
Okay. Don't know why, but when you guys share, I'm not able to switch to my other windows. Okay. So 4. I think that was it for agenda item number 4. So agenda item 5 is the rate order. And so Bill, I'm going to throw this back to you. I think we're making changes to the rate order to document the changes in fees.
Yeah, so they're really, there are two areas, and I can share my screen in a minute, but let me explain what we're looking at first. One area was Mackenzie brought up, actually both of the points that we concentrated brought up by Mackenzie. One was the wording on the minimum charges, which I'm going to recommend we call basic service fees in the red line you're going to see in a minute. That's the amount you pay for water and wastewater every month, even if you don't use any water. And included in that fee is the solid waste disposal and recycling. So Mackenzie pointed out the wording was unclear or awkward. And so we worked on that. The other part was what's called a meter reread fee. When a customer calls and says, I think this meter reading's got to be wrong. Can you have somebody check it to see if it's read properly? And Mackenzie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically said that, there's a fee associated with that, but it's not in the rate order. So we
That is correct.
We incorporated that in the area where we had our leak adjustment because it seemed to make sense. And then Linda pointed out one minor change in the state assessment paragraph. Your state assessment that you pay to the TCEQ and collect from your customers, which is 0.5% of the water and wastewater charges. It actually, the wording in there says water or wastewater, but it really is water and wastewater. And I didn't mark that change, but we can make that tonight. So that's really the only areas we concentrated on this round.
Okay.
So I can, if you want, I can bring up, the red line was attached to invite, but I can do a share screen.
Yeah, go ahead, to
go
share
through it.
screen.
All right. Try to do it right this time. Hold on. All right. All right. Does everybody see a order establishing water and wastewater service rates?
Yes.
All right. So the only change on page 1 is the date, which is nothing. Then we go to basic service fees. All right, so on this page, which is page 8 of the red line, the service rates, right above it, we have the date we changed the rates, but actually I'm not proposing any rate change. So the way your bills will look are not going to change because of this. So I don't know if we need to worry about this date. On your bill that you get as a customer, there's a charge called basic service fees, and it's $25. That's what your bill says now. Mackenzie, if I incorrectly state what you guys are billing, let me know. But I believe on the bills there's basic service fee, and it's $25. So in our rate order, I guess the confusing part perhaps was we didn't call it basic service fee, we called it minimum monthly charge. And then we separated between water and wastewater, 15 for water, 10 for wastewater. And then we included the solid waste disposal and recycling. So I've changed the wording now where it's basic service fee, it's $25. It includes 0 gallons of water and sewer service and solid waste disposal and recycling. And the basic service fee for people age 65 or older is actually discounted because we get a discount on solid waste, and it comes out to $18.43. And then it's due and payable even if you've been disconnected or have no service. So the real change is we're calling a basic service fee, and we're saying it's $25, and then we're saying what people 65 and older pay. And that eliminates, I think, the confusion as to what's the water base, what's the wastewater base. We still are including the solid waste disposal and recycling in our basic service fee. And as I described last time, the comptroller's policy is that if you separate that and bill it separately, it will be subject to sales tax, which means the district will have to charge sales tax, collect it, and submit it to the comptroller. So that's why we've always done it this way. The other change here is just the change, call it a basic service fee and B. And those are the changes in those paragraphs. I want to stop there and see if anybody has questions so we can answer any questions before we go through the next part.
I don't have any questions.
I do. I have questions.
Okay.
And I understand from many meetings ago that I sat through that we can't charge people for water. Water doesn't make a profit. So this money, this basic service fee right now, we know is going, because if you're not using any water, you can't charge them for water. So we know that if you're under the age of 65, your $25 basic service fee will have $18.96 taken out of that fee to pay for your garbage and recycling. That leaves a balance of $6.04 for all of those customers, and there are 1,891 of those. If you're a senior, according to the waste management bills, you pay $16.99 for your trash service now. That leaves a balance of your $18.43 basic service fee of $1.74 a month. And there's 250 of those customers identified by waste management. So combined, that leftover money on the table every month out of that basic service fee is $11,856.64. So I'd like to know where that money goes. It's not used to pay for water that's not consumed. So we've got trash and recycling covered out of these fees. Where's the rest of the money?
Okay, so Linda, let me comment first and then other people may have questions. So the district can charge a base fee that includes 0 gallons of water. So let's just discuss the water part of your comments first. We have this combined, but if it were separated, we could have a minimum monthly charge for water that includes 0 gallons of service. And that's totally legal. It's part of how you want to do your rate calculation, your rate study, how you want to put your rates together. So this district started to the board tried to mimic the city of Cedar Park. And so for a long time, we didn't have a base fee at all for wastewater. And then we added one because city of Cedar Park has one. The base fee, if you want to call it that, where you're not using any water, but you're still paying some money, is to have, it goes to the cost of having that service available, should you use it. So it's very common for the districts and utilities to have a minimum monthly charge, even if you don't use any of the service. So I'm not sure your comment was entirely correct that we can't charge for water not used. That's not exactly correct. And over time, we did develop a wastewater base fee. So where's the money go? The money goes to the district to pay any costs of providing service, which, there's a lot of costs that go to maintaining the system, even if somebody doesn't use any water.
There are, but this is almost this is over $140,000 a year. So where in the record keeping do we show that revenue?
Well, I'd have to defer to Infomark on how they count the revenue.
I think that would also be a Michael question, because I couldn't tell you straight off the bat exactly where that's going to show up.
And I know that it does cost to provide the service. And I know that there are ways that we collect those costs or get those costs reimbursed. So yeah, this is a large chunk of money. So I would like to know how it gets entered into the general fund and then how it's parsed out from there. Or if it's just included in the grand total and then budgeted through a cycle. I'll ask Michael.
Yeah, that's an accounting question, but
I'll ask him.
Okay, do we have any more questions before Bill moves forward?
The next section we addressed, let's see, I don't want to skip over the assessment part. Paragraph F here, the state assessment, this is that 0.5% charge. So if the board does approve the changes tonight, I would recommend we include changing the word "or" in line 3, where it says retail water or sewer service, to "and." It's not marked here, but I would recommend it be included. It's just more accurate. Then we get to H, where the meter read checks. I combined it with the leak billing adjustments because it seemed to make sense. People would be calling because they had a high usage that maybe they had a leak So I just added this paragraph 1, which basically says the manager is going to offer the customer an optional meter recheck and inform them there'll be a fee if the meters recheck shows it was accurate, the meter read was accurate. Mackenzie, is that paragraph comport to what you had recommended?
Yes, it does. And that it's 100% accurate. If we do the recheck and it is correct, then as far as like what we originally correct or show it to be, then they would be charged the fee. However, if it's not, then obviously they would not be charged.
And then in paragraph 2, I just changed to will review instead of reviews. Just seemed to be worded better. So those are the only, and I renumbered these paragraphs to go to the end of that section. Those are the only changes that we made in this draft, and I think the only ones that are being recommended tonight.
I think
Okay.
it flows a lot better. I mean, I like what you did.
I do have a question on the item H, the meter read and rechecks. In the Infomark contract under customer service and billing services, read meter, check for leaks, customer requested is part of the base fee. So I guess my question is, why are we adjusting this contract through a rate order to start charging people for what is clearly in the base fee?
Well, am I making an accurate statement to say that they're not necessarily related to each other?
No,
that is it.
the work orders actually use this code. I looked at March and April work orders from Infomark. There were a total of 4 rereads, and this is the exact code they use to identify that work. Customer requested, blah, blah, blah. But this is it, read meter, check for leaks, customer requested. And there were 2 in March and 2 in April. So I would ask that Bill check this contract first, because I do believe this is covered in their base fee.
Yeah, but wait a minute. I still think we might be
different.
talking about apples and oranges here.
No, they're not
Yeah.
apples and oranges.
No, well, think about where we were, early on, where we said that it is legal for us to, charge for 0 to, X gallons of water because there is a cost of doing business. I think that isn't that where we're getting to here is if you want to have your meter reread, there's going to be a cost for doing that. Now that has nothing to do with what our contract with Infomark says.
Well,
And
I
I
don't
th-
think we can charge our customers for services that we already pay Infomark to perform. There would need to be a basis to change this contract to allow them or to allow the collection of this fee. This fee is covered already, and our customers pay taxes, which pays Infomark's base fee. So
What's-
they've already paid for this service.
Right, and someone did come out and check all the meters, but if it's read incorrectly, we will not charge them. But
No,
if it's a mistake on the house, then yes, they'll be charged $30.
That's not how this contract reads, and I would request that Bill Flickinger look at this and compare it to the invoices that actually go out and do customer requested rereads and see if this is not exactly the scenario described in the base fee that Infomark does for their almost $50,000 a month. That's covered in their fee.
Linda, can I ask Infomark some questions first? Mackenzie, is Infomark charging when they go to recheck a meter read? Are they
If it's-
charging the district separately?
No, if the customer is, so let's put a scenario in play here. Someone calls in to customer service and asks for their meter to be reread because they feel that their meter was not read correctly or whatever the case may be. We then send a tech out. We inform them that there is a charge if the meter read comes back accurate to what we already read it as. And then from there, it's up to them if we send the tech out, because we don't want to charge people when they can likely go out and look at it themselves. So Lee is really good about informing them of how to do that themselves. And they go out a lot of times and decide not to have the tech come out, because if they can do it themselves and then avoid a charge, because they may be misinterpreting what the read is going to be or what their determination of this is, then they go out and look at it themselves and determine, okay, it was read correctly. But we don't charge the district separately for this. This is something that they see on their bill, and it comes back to the district as revenue. It's not going to Inframark, and it's done by the base tech. So the base tech is the one doing it. So it's not that Inframark is getting paid for these, it's that the tech goes out, double checks it. And then obviously when that happens, we're taking the tech away from daily duties at the request of a customer. And then he comes back and reports on that. Now, obviously, if it is wrong and it was read in error on our behalf, the customer is then not charged.
Okay, so what you're saying is currently you're not separately charging the district these fees. It's part of
No,
your
absolutely
fees?
not.
Okay, so I guess, subject to checking that, but Linda, have you seen invoices from Infomark where they've charged for these meter rechecks?
No.
No.
They're all covered under the base fee. There's no charge, not
Right.
for the vehicle or not for the text time.
Okay, so in my opinion, this really is two different issues. We're not trying to, and we cannot amend Infomark's contract in the rate order. The rate order is what the district charges its customers. And so if the district decided it wanted to have this type of fee to recoup costs when, we're, like Mackenzie's described, where we're using Infomark personnel that we've paid for, the district paid for, but this is an extra duty that we feel we should recoup some money on for certain customers, then they can. This will not change Infomark's contract at all. That's not going to happen through the rate order. Now, if the board decides, well, we don't want to have this kind of charge, then we just don't put it in the rate order at all.
Well, I think what we need to know is how many customers have been billed this $30 meter recheck.
Well, Linda, I think we've been told 0.
No.
It's been very
not
few.
applied to bills. It's not applied to the work orders that Infomark supplies.
Well, no, Mackenzie, are these charges showing up on our customers' bills?
Yes, they would see a reread.
Well,
fee
no,
on
I
their
mean, right
bill.
now, are they
Oh.
showing up on their bills?
If we got a request for one, yes, we would. However, we didn't for several throughout the storm and the freeze and what have you, because we felt like it was valid that people would want to have rechecks done. And obviously with the meter reads going the way that they did, us having to do a month of averaging and all of that, we had several come through that we did not charge for. So there will be some that you'll see on work orders that were not on customer bills, but it is standard that we would put this on a customer bill. However, it happens so rarely that this actually comes through, because a lot of times customers will listen to Lee's sermon on how they can go about checking it themselves, and they decide against pulling the tech into.
Okay. So let me clarify a couple things. One is Infomark should not be putting charges on our customers' bills unless that charge is in the rate order. So if those charges are going on bills now or have in the past, that's a mistake, because it's not in our rate order to charge it. Only the district can set up the charges that go on customers' bills. So that might be something we would look at. But going
and that's
forward,
actually what prompted this. Is we had one come through recently that was not on the rate order, and our billing department wouldn't bill it because it wasn't listed in the rate order.
right.
It's
Okay.
listed in AVR, which is the billing system, but because it was not actually in the rate order, they contacted us and said, hey, we can't charge this. And like I said at the last meeting, we tried to pull one from, I can't tell you how long ago. And if it was years ago that one was charged, but we'd have to go back. But like I said, within the last year, possibly 2 years, I don't think we've had any charged.
Okay, but we're in agreement that unless we modify the rate order, you cannot charge directly to the customer.
Correct. And that's what prompted us to bring this to the board. Was our billing department saying, hey, we got obviously notification for one, we can't charge it because it's not on the rate order. So that's why I pushed it through for a change on the rate order.
I'd like to make a motion, please.
Sure.
I make a motion that we don't charge our customers for a reread unless it is a habitual customer problem. Of course, you would address it independently, but my motion is that we do not charge our customers for this service. It is so infrequent that it happens. It's just totally unjustified to add this. 4 requests in 2 months is not a lot of time. It takes seconds to read a meter. So my motion is that we do not charge customers to reread their meter if they call in for that service until it becomes a problem in the district, which right now it isn't. Anyone want to second that and protect the customer?
So I guess my question is, are you asking that we?
That we don't include this in the rate order.
Okay, that's where I'm going. Yeah.
Not at this time. I'm not going to say ever. If this becomes a habitual problem that consumes enormous amounts of time, I would absolutely agree to this. But I've only looked at 2 months worth of invoices, but I will go further back and I will ask Michael to check the books to see if anybody's been charged this fee. But we don't have a problem. So I really don't like to introduce stuff like this unless there's a problem.
My only concern is that whoever's going out to the house to do the reread, we are paying them to go back out to do that.
No, they're already here getting paid 8 hours a day, whether they sit in Lakeline Oaks or rent out to a neighbor's property. It's the same. They get paid the same. There's no charge. There's no charge.
But they can learn how to do that themselves on how to read that meter.
I like that Lee walks them through trying to do their own first. But there's some people.
Exactly.
There's some people who just can't. And again, we're talking 2 per month in the last 2 months.
Linda, can I make a suggestion on your motion? It probably would be move things forward in a more comprehensive manner if you made a motion to approve the changes proposed except for the changes in paragraph H on meter rereads, so we could see if someone will want to second that.
All right, I make a motion then to approve the rate order changes that Bill described, except for item H1, which is the meter read rechecks.
Oh, sorry.
Let's move on.
I'll second that.
What are you seconding?
The whatever Linda's most recent motion was.
Okay, so let's discuss this some more. So you want so we're talking about at this point then at approving the rate order and not including H1.
Yes.
Okay, I look at H1 as sort of like a deductible or your copay. It's called our self-insured retention. If you're in from the insurance world, you understand what I'm talking about. It's those things that make you think, okay, do I want to spend money on this? And so I'm okay with it being in the rate order.
Yes.
The fact that we don't have, that it's not a problem right now doesn't mean that it's not appropriate to be in the rate order. And I'm not exactly sure what the definition of a problem is. So, okay, so there's my 2 cents, is that I would prefer to have it be part of our rate order.
Yes.
Mackenzie and Lee, do you feel like when you talk to customers who call in, do you feel like the threat of the $30 charge is a deterrent for people? Do you feel like that's the reason why a lot of people are just like, never mind, I got this? Or do you feel like
Yes.
it's because
And that's my whole thing is that if we
It is the sole purpose deterrent to keep them from having the tech be pulled for that specifically. And it almost it's a 2-for-1. It not only deters the tech from having to go out there and from them having to pay the $30 fee, it also helps them learn just a little bit about what their water meter is, where it is, how to look at it, that kind of thing, for a lot of people who have never done that before.
but if Lee continued to walk people through that, do you think that, but without the threat of the $30, do you think that some people would?
I think people would take advantage of just being told that someone could be sent out, and Lee agrees.
Okay. So, I mean, is there some way to do it where, because do we get a lot of people who do it on a repeat basis, or is it usually typically someone, they'll call in once and then that's the end?
I think if they know it's free, they're going to do it more. And now that we're talking about it, people are going to learn about it, and then they're going to call people out. So that's where I struggle with this.
Yeah. So I'm curious if there's some way to do it where like the first one's a freebie, but if you start, if like every month or every 3 months, the same person is like, come reread my thing, then something accrued, kind of like.
We do have a habitual one. Apparently Lee was letting me know that a guy calls in almost repeatedly to get his rechecked.
Okay. So I'm wondering, is that something we could do, where is that like an option where it's like the first time we'll set, if you really feel like you need it checked, someone will go check it. But if you're a repeat offender, then it's going to cost.
Well, I'm sure we could come up with some language that would address that. We would have to have, some wording that if it's one time in a certain period of time, perhaps a year, that it would be free, and then after that it would be a charge. I'd have to reword it to do that if the board wanted to go that direction. Probably couldn't do that tonight.
Yeah.
Take me a little thought. But yeah, you would have the first time it would be no charge, and the second time within a certain period of time would be a charge. Might create a lot of administrative
paperwork.
Confusion.
Bill, that's what I was going to, this is Christy, and let me just chime in a second. Yes, that would create, it would almost be better just to go out and reread all the meters. But I will tell you that during the summer months when it's hot, there are a lot of requests that come in. So exactly as Mackenzie had mentioned, it's more of a deterrent, and it's also a win-win. We've got a lot of tasks on our list, and I understand that, going to read 1 meter doesn't seem like it takes that long, but when you have 5 requests coming in one day, it does add up, and it takes some time. So, summer months definitely are a bit different than the winter months as well. So I just wanted to mention that. And I think that if we try to say you get 1 freebie a year, that's going to become more of an administrative nightmare. So
yeah,
I agree, Christy.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe we should just vote.
Okay. Well, okay, I'm going to call the vote. So what we're doing is we're voting for the rate order, and we're eliminating paragraph H1.
Correct.
That's what you're voting on, correct?
Yeah, yes, that's what we're voting on.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so let's go ahead. Linda,
Yes.
Megan,
No, given what Christy and Mackenzie said.
okay, Beth,
No.
and I vote no also. Okay, so then I make a motion that we accept the rate order as presented with all the red lines and the change from the or to the and that Bill pointed out. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any more discussion on this issue?
No.
I'll go ahead and call the vote. Linda,
No,
Megan,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
and I vote yes too. Okay. Okay, the rate order. Please stop sharing, Bill.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Okay. And the rate order. Okay. Agenda item 6, property tax exemptions for senior citizens over the age of 65. So this is something that we're going to be working on as part of gearing up for our next budget cycle. And if I remember talking with somebody about this, there are two things going on as it relates to this issue. There is applying for the exemption, and the deadline for that was April 30th. Somebody correct me.
That's correct.
Okay, so what we know right now is we know how many people have applied for the property tax exemption for because they're 65 or older. So we know what that is. So then we have until June 30th to change what our exemption is. And if I'm remembering it correctly, it's currently $3,000.
That's correct.
Okay. So the purpose of this agenda item is to have a discussion and talk about the path to changing this number and getting it properly filed by June 30th. Am I correct?
Well, I think this was, correct me, Linda, if I'm wrong, but I think it was originally brought up by Linda as something to review. And there's some moving parts here, you know,
Yes.
some calculations. So I'll let Linda comment on what her recommendation is on going forward.
well, Catherine, you wouldn't be able to not effectively make a change unless you looked at the numbers, because when you start making changes to the exemption, it changes the amount of revenue that the MUD's going to take in.
Right.
And we do not know the number of residents that have filed for the even $3,000 exemption that currently exists for the tax year 2021. We don't have that number. We have a look at what happened in 2020, but the information is becoming public, so maybe more people will apply. Chris Lane came up with a number of over 300 people in the district last year that took advantage of that exemption, that $3,000 exemption, but I suspect that number will grow. And that's why I asked her for a tool that we could adjust. If we, for instance, if we said to the seniors, we can give you a $5,000 exemptions, we would have to know what that does to the tax revenue before you
Right.
make that change.
Right.
And you have to know how many people were actually going to take advantage of that particular exemption. And we should know that by June, because by then they will have had to file for that exemption. So Chris Lane should get us a fresh look at the people, all the people who met the deadline or the end of April deadline.
Right.
for
Yeah.
filing.
Because it's yeah.
We're
Okay.
filing for it. And once we have that number, now we can start adjusting. If we drop it to this, or if we increase the exemption to $5,000 and we know there are 400 seniors, what does that do to the income in MUD taxes? Without
Right.
that information, you can't make a change.
Right. So I'm assuming, and somebody hopefully will be able to correct me if I'm wrong, that once you file for it, it's sort of like your homestead. You know, you file for homestead and it's there until you leave, basically. And so so we know who filed last year. those people, assuming that they're still district residents, will continue to have that exemption. The question becomes, with all the churn in the community, do we have more exemptions coming in? Okay.
And those exemptions against now the 2021 value of their property, because remember,
Right.
it only knocks off value of property, and then
Right.
that new value multiplied by the rate order, the calculation, whatever we're charging per 100, and then you can see what the revenue would look like.
Right.
But until you do that, you can't make people move or die, or that number is a fluctuating number. You can count on it going into a tax year, but you really need to look at it every year because it changes that
Oh,
much.
definitely. So this really needs to be, part of the spreadsheet, the budgeting spreadsheet, or the rate order, in terms of the what the exemption is, because I do not ever remember having any discussion. We just kept talking about what the gross appraised value for the district is, and that's really not the accurate number that we need to be using as we're playing with the rates, because we've got a small percentage of the property owners who might be having a small adjustment. Anyway.
Well, I do want to ask too, because I have not looked at the form at the appraisal office, but most of these exemptions apply to seniors over 65 and the disabled. So
Right.
I'm not sure about the MUD exemption. Does it apply to the disabled as well?
Yes.
It does. So see,
No, you can't get both though. Say you're over 65 and disabled, you
Right.
just get one exemption.
Right.
It doesn't
But if you're not 65 but disabled, let's say you're 30 and disabled, you would get the exemption.
Right. And there's a definition, I think we talked about this when it first came up. There's a definition of disabled. So it's really somebody that's getting disability benefits from the government, not just somebody that has a tag in their car.
Right.
That doesn't
And you can
count.
actually see it in the appraisal records. You can actually see people who are getting a disabled credit exemption, if you will, on their taxes. There is a code for it. Chris Lane was able to pull those out as well, but it's, again, that information needs to be shared with the community so that those who qualify can take that exemption, and then we'll know it's too late for them for 2021, but it would
Right.
be beneficial for 2022.
Right. It also sounds like this is one of those things, at the first quarter of the year that maybe we need to put in on the invoice. If you qualify, if you're going to qualify this year, be sure to put your exemption in. Do we know what if Williamson County is being proactive, because people are filling out the exemption for over 65 or whatever is for those other taxing entities? Do they automatically apply it to us? Follow what I'm saying?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Just like when you put your homestead exemption in,
Okay.
applies to everyone that gives you a homestead exemption. So if
Okay.
you put in with the county that you want over 65 and disabled exemptions, if you apply for that, it applies to all the taxing entities.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, even our MUD tax, it'll cover them.
My understanding, if let's say they go to the county and they just say, hey, I want to apply for homestead and I'm over 65, what can I fill out? And they fill out one for over 65, it will apply to the district automatically, because it applies to all the county taxing entities that the county collects for. So it will apply.
Then we get
It's the appraisal district where you filed for the exemptions, and they do the appraisals for us too. So
I thought we had talked at the last time we talked about this. I thought there was discussion that they had to fill out a separate form to get the MUD exemption. I'm glad to hear.
Well, it's a form, I mean, it's separate probably from the homestead form, I think. I haven't seen the appraisal district forms, but they don't have to say, I want it from MUD1. They just say they want it and it'll apply.
Well,
Right.
then
That's my understanding. Yeah.
then we need to use that senior discount or that senior number that Chris Lane gave us for waste management. It'll reduce the costs of that as well. Because if she's confirmed over 300 seniors registered through the appraisal office in the district. So
There'll be the possible slight difference because you could be an owner and not a customer, but it's probably a pretty close number though.
Yeah. Well, we're off by over 150. So that again, these are minor amounts. They're not going to make a huge difference.
Right.
Some web attention, some advertising out there so people know that these things are available. The same page that contains the rate order information might be a good landing spot for the advantages of being 65 or being disabled and the little breaks you get in mud taxes if you file for that. That kind of information needs to be made public, available.
Okay, so let's talk about what we need to do to move forward, because we're going to need to have some recommendations at the June board meeting in terms of making an adjustment. So I'm trying to think. So I'm just going to say that why don't we just handle this through the budget committee, which is Linda and I. Linda, we need to meet sometime next week and have a discussion and have some actual numbers where we know how many people, how many exemptions we think we have. And then we can do some algebra and figure out, how we want to what we want to recommend to the board at the June board meeting.
Well, Catherine, what I'm trying to put together is a spreadsheet where we can plug in numbers.
Right.
It'll give the answer because
Right.
algebra is not my strong point. So I'm not going to be able to do that for you. But I will give you numbers to plug in and then you can see. But that's just a small picture of the total budget. And right now, I'm waiting on some more information so that I can start filling in a spreadsheet and adjusting numbers to see what happens with the grand total. And I know June is right around the corner and I'm struggling to get information. So
okay, well, right now, I'm just trying to have a good understanding of how many households do we think we're talking about.
That we have.
Yeah, and then an understanding of right now what did that mean in terms of the reduction, and start thinking at it more at a gross level, because you're right, it is small at an individual basis. $3,000 is pretty small.
Well, it only comes off the value of your property. So if we don't know the value of the property, then we don't really know what that's going to do over the grand total number. I mean, I can tell you that there's over 365 and older residents in the district, but I cannot tell you the value of those 300 properties.
Yeah, and I can tell you that we've all had excessive appraised values, and I sent you that email earlier today where Williamson County is umping the exemption across the board because they're recognizing, I think, we've set records. I think Williamson County said that they set a record in terms of the property valuations and stuff this after this last appraisal round. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of pieces.
There's some missing numbers where we can't get a good calculated total. We can get in a ballpark, but until we know the actual appraised value of properties that are going to be assessed in 2021. And I think and maybe Chris Lane has that now. We're past the cycle, I believe, where you can protest your appraised value. So if we're past that cycle and those numbers are locked in, she can pull those numbers, and then we'll know the values of the property, because that's what the MUD taxes are going to be based on, minus the little $3,000 exemption. They don't get the big $90,000 exemption to reduce
Right.
that property value. So
Right.
it's not,
That's a big number.
that
Yeah.
was, that's,
Yeah.
that's a huge number, and very
Yeah.
helpful to people 65 and over, I'm sure.
Okay, so so why don't we plan on picking next Thursday or Friday? Would that work? And who else do we need to pull into this meeting?
Michael for sure, and I think Chris Lane would be invaluable because she has a way with numbers. Or
Okay. Okay.
it is a she, right? It is she. Chris, it is she.
You're correct. It is a she.
And
Okay.
I have one other comment. I think Linda and Catherine, mathematically, if you know the estimated taxable value in the entire district, you don't necessarily need to know the value of these people that are over 65. You just
Right.
need to know approximately how many there are. And then you can take that number times whatever additional amounts you're going to grant. And that comes off your total taxable value. And that times your tax rate will be the dollars that you're giving up.
I thought Bill went to law school. He's obviously good in math. Yes, that would work.
Okay.
That would work.
So Mackenzie, can go ahead and I'll put you in charge of putting the meeting together. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, but we don't know the disabled ones yet.
No.
Well, no, maybe she does. Maybe she does. Is it a safe assumption that if they're that would already cross over then? Never mind. We will know that. We will know
Yeah,
that.
it's one or the other, not both.
Right. So I'm saying if somebody filed an exemption for a disability exemption, no matter their age, that would apply to all of their tax record, including the MUD tax.
Correct.
Okay, never mind.
Okay. Agenda item 7, request by a single director for additional work by contractors and consultants. And this obviously is coming back around from last week. So this was brought to my attention when Megan told me that when she found out that there was a request by Linda, who is not on the Information Management Committee, and she requested that, Touchstone do some analysis, which is fine. But but the request did not come from the subcommittee who's working with this vendor, which means that this request then would eat into the ability of the subcommittee to make other requests that they might have prioritized with that vendor. So the reason I brought this up was it's really important, I believe, that if you need to make a request to a vendor under the resolution that we have passed in the last couple of board meetings that allow subcommittees to have limited spending authority. If you need to make a request to a vendor and you're not part of the subcommittee that's interacting with that vendor, then your request needs to go to the subcommittee so that they can receive your request and triage it, so to speak, so that they can decide whether they want to make that request to the vendor. If not, the other appropriate path is for that director to bring it forward at a board meeting for the rest of the board to discuss. So the reason that I had Art read that statement at last month is I was just absolutely incensed that Linda, who has been hammering at all of us about how none of us make decisions in a vacuum for the MUD. And guess what she did? That's exactly what she did. She made a decision that was in a vacuum, and it wasn't her decision to make. So I don't know what happened to the resolution that I made. What did it get seconded? Like I said, I was.
We haven't done anything yet, Catherine.
Okay. Well, so that is my 2 cents about, what actually happened. And it would be just as inappropriate for me to have gone and asked Sunscapes to have done something that resulted in a cost to the district without either coming to the board or bringing it to the Parks Committee. So
It's not something we're allowed to do, period. We can't do that without coming to you first or to the whole board.
Well, yes. So I don't know if there's anything more to discuss about this right now, but we need to have an understanding that, and I also think that we need to be very, communicate with our vendors that, that yes, please interact with board members, but understand that not every single board member in a vacuum can give you direction that is going to result in billable hours. How about we put it to you that way? So Megan, Beth, do you have anything to add to this?
I just think that anything that we do, because everything that we ask for, Lee or Mackenzie or anybody to do, it costs money. I mean, everything we do with them costs money. Everything that we do with Bill costs money. So I think it all should come to the board first. That's.
Well, except for when we have these, remember we've done these very minor carve outs for each of the subcommittees that they have very minor, specifically related to their charge with that vendor and that subcommittee, which totally makes sense because we were struggling, the subcommittees were struggling with literally not being able to, have discussions and with their vendors between board meetings. Sometimes you just need to have a 15-minute board meeting. Now, I'm not going to, pass judgment or argue about what Linda asked Touchstone to do. It was when I read the report, it was sort of an interesting report that looked at, the traffic to the district. I interpreted it sort of differently than what somebody else said in terms of what they thought was going on that caused the spikes that were graphed, et cetera, et cetera. But in the end, it's not fair to Touchstone to say, I'm sorry, you did this work for us. It's beautiful. But we're not going to pay you because it went through the improper channels. And that is a total mistake when I think all of us agree that that is not where we want to go.
Catherine, I would like to say something because I need to correct some misstatements that you did make. I did not ask Touchstone for a report. I asked them if they gathered statistics like that, and they offered that they did. And I did have a conversation today with Michael Willett, who said that he called Megan to get approval because he understands that the committee is the one who authorizes his work. He said that he talked to her. He told her how much time it was going to take. He told me that in an email today.
I saw the email. He didn't say that. He said he called me afterwards. He did not.
That's not what he said. But my point is this: if any vendor who he obviously knows that Megan is the committee. So he called her. So he knows that, and he says it in his email, that the committee is the condition for his work. Then he should have, in all fairness, told me that he was going to provide something that was billable, because in his contract, he is obligated by his contract to provide technology consultation. And I am interested in the web traffic. So he never indicated, not in one exchange, that he was billing for his service. I had every reason to believe it's covered under his service agreement. It's written in his contract. So we could argue about this, but there really isn't any point. I understand now. My question will always begin with, are you billing for this? Because if you are, it will go a different route, but not providing that information up front and then turning around and somehow or another, you know, the charge for this report and I do not. The conversation between you and Megan would be out of order since you're not on that committee. So anything she told you about that, not in a public meeting, leads me to question the quorum thing again.
You don't need to worry about a quorum. I did not talk to Beth about it, and they did not talk to Beth. They called me.
I said to Catherine.
I know.
Said she talked to you.
Yes, but I did not talk to Beth. Beth didn't know anything about it. I very specifically talked to one other director about it, and that's Catherine. So there's no quorum issue.
Well, he did send the report to all the directors. He did send the entire report.
That's information that all the directors had, but I did not discuss the issue with anybody but Catherine.
Well, that's interesting since Beth is on your committee. But my point remains the same. Oh, and Catherine, in this month's bills and invoices, you instructed McKinsey to subscribe us to Zoom. And you did that without board approval. Yes, she just told me. I asked her.
That is not what I said to you. No, absolutely not. No, I did not say Catherine instructed us to subscribe to a Zoom account. I specifically stated that we were piggybacking off of Hayes's Zoom account until about 2 or 3 months ago. And we had you had asked me why we couldn't use Google Meet. And I let you know that I hadn't even considered it. I attempted to use what we use here with Infomark, and that's Microsoft Teams. Catherine expressed how much she did not like Teams, and Catherine can voice her opinion on that, and asked that meetings, including her going forward, be a Zoom if possible. And that's why I said I felt it was in the best interest to start a Zoom account for WTC because you were all familiar with it. I did not state that Catherine gave us a directive to start a Zoom account.
Well, I will forward that email for everyone to interpret, but I'm pretty well versed in the English language. And when we have a product that provides a meeting solution that we pay $2,500 a year for, I don't think it's in the best interest of the district, McKinsey, for you to subscribe us to another product. You've already got us going with the Google Workspace and the Vault, and those aren't working yet. So that is equally as bad to me as me asking a vendor if they collect information. For any of our contractors to go out and subscribe to a service that is not board approved, it's equally as damaging.
Okay.
But I will find your email.
Okay, so agenda item 8. Information Management Committee, information sharing with the full board is outlined in the communications policy. And this, Linda, was yours. So you obviously have something that you need to share with us.
Well, actually, this was one of the things that was discussed when we went over that communications policy. And it was imperative that communications that are being sent forward in this district are shared with the full board. And I'm getting emails from residents about things that actually have never been discussed in a board meeting, and it's interpretations that they're having, and I don't know where they're coming from. For instance, running a commercial business out of your home is not allowed. Where is that coming from? Where's somebody getting that idea? So my point is this:
not from me.
Communications that are going out to customers because They're literally coming up with interpretations of things on their very own. And I don't know where they're being cleared. I don't know where they're getting the information, and I don't know how to correct it when there is nothing being shared. The communications policy was approved conditionally, and that is all communications would be shared. And Bill even pushed forward the going through the communications policy and figuring out how to share documents later or share your communications later. None of that has been set up and none of that is happening.
That's first of all untrue. Every time anything's posted to the website, I share it with the board.
It's not about the website. This one isn't the website. This is
I am not
the residents.
what you're saying. Okay, I can only speak for myself. I have no idea where this resident got that. It did not come from me. I don't think it came from Beth. So therefore it didn't come from information management. So it's not an information management committee issue. Where it came from, I can't answer that. So there have been no communications that have not been shared with the board. In fact, I had a communication recently with a resident that then got translated into an FAQ that got shared with the entire board. So it's not an information management committee issue.
I didn't see a communication with a resident that generated an FAQ.
I sent out an FAQ.
I didn't see the communication with the resident that generated the FAQ.
That's
what I want to see.
You're saying you want.
I can't. If the committee is on that, I'm not gonna then CC it to everybody else. The email.
That forces us to think or to accept whatever your idea of an FAQ is, when I don't even know what the question was posed.
You do, because you forwarded me the question. You forwarded me the question. You forwarded it to the Parks Committee. It was a question that you received and you forwarded it to the Parks Committee. So you know the
Correct.
question.
Oh, okay. That's the only one? That is the only question?
Yep. That's the only one that I received directly.
Correct. That is correct.
Wow. Outreach isn't working so well if people aren't asking questions. That's exactly why I wanted to see web traffic. I've had only one question about parks.
Okay.
Linda, is that a criticism? Are you criticizing me because
That's what I was going to ask, because it's gone really well.
How am I supposed to interpret that?
You're supposed to interpret it as I am confused. I cannot imagine. I've had more questions about the survey. I've pointed people to the survey.
Good.
So I can't imagine that you have gotten nothing.
I bet we do next week. I'm hearing it already.
Anyway, my point is, I'm not sure what you're asking for with this agenda item because it's not an information management committee issue. So if
they're the ones that are responsible for sharing information with the full board. It's
and
outlined.
we have been, and anything that you're questioning that people know that you think came from us did not come from us.
Very well.
It's not even coming back to us right now, not until it's all finished. That's what
We're talking about two separate things now.
Okay.
I'm talking about the example you brought up. That didn't come from us. So I'm
okay.
Okay. Agenda item 9, minutes from prior regular and special meetings, reconsideration of meetings. There weren't any minutes.
Yeah, we put this on there in case there would be.
Okay. Okay.
I'm assuming that I didn't get any, so I'm assuming none are ready for consideration.
Okay. Okay. Because I was like, I didn't have anything on the. I didn't have any
Lee,
attachments to read.
let me ask Lee. Lee, is that correct? There's nothing to be considered tonight.
You are correct. I don't have anything right now.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Where are the DRC minutes? What's the holdup?
I haven't read them yet. That's what the holdup is. Okay. Agenda item 10, future board meeting. So our next board meeting is.
We have a special board meeting June 1st at 6 p.m.
Okay.
It's only on the lawsuit filed by Linda.
Okay.
It's been posted. We don't have any other special meetings scheduled right now, so that would mean after that would be the DRC meeting.
Right, but what I'm trying to, so the DRC meeting is going to be on the 14th, correct? And then the June board meeting is the 16th.
Let me look at my calendar real quick. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so our tradition is, we're trying to leave the DRC committee, just DRC meeting, just DRC issues. So is there anything for the 16th, which is that we know that we need to put on the agenda? That is outside of, manager's report and, infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera.
So far, Catherine, tonight we talked about the property tax exemptions.
Right.
So I plan to put that on that regular
Yes.
meeting.
Yes. And
When's
so,
the budget?
yes,
When's the
we're,
budget?
yes.
What meeting is the budget meeting?
Well, I think there's going to be, in the month of June, Beth, you and I are going to start meeting as we start gathering the requests from the other subcommittees. And then we're going to start having more meetings, and we'll what is it July that we start narrowing things down? And then give me a time frame, Bill. Is it August?
Well,
Did we finally get down to?
The budget committee has to get a head start, and they usually work with Infomark for a while.
Yes.
Then I think the board starts looking at it, and best case scenario is start looking at it in July, but typically it ends up in August. And then September is when you have to adopt your budget and set your tax rate. So
okay, so this was the thing. I'm going to make the assumption, Linda, that you and I are going to come up with a recommendation at the meeting on the 23rd at the very last. That would be the last scheduled meeting, to if we were going to make some adjustment to the over 65 exemption, if we're going to change it from the 3 to maybe to move it to 5 or 750 or 7,500 or whatever. Bill, what do we have to do? I know we have to file something, and the filing deadline is the 30th.
Yeah. So my office will prepare an order or a resolution similar to the one that was done previously.
Okay.
So I'll put that together with a blank for the dollar amount. So that'll be ready whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Are you saying you want to take this up on the 23rd, or do you want to keep it on the regular agenda as well?
Yeah, put it on the 16th and the 23rd, because I suspect that we're probably going to want to be able to talk about it in a full board meeting.
Okay. I'll make sure it's on both.
Right. But then, again, because what I'm not quite understanding is, so what is the process of actually filing? Is you get the resolution and then we take it to the county and pay a fee?
My office will handle it. After you approve it, we do need to get it signed.
Okay.
So, I'd really recommend, if you're ready, we do it at the regular meeting, because we need to get it signed.
Yes.
And then we need to get a copy to the county. So after you approve it, we'll handle that process. But I wouldn't cut it real close if you're serious about doing it. So I think the regular meeting, you need to be pretty sure what you're going to do.
Right. Well, yes. And then the meeting on the 23rd, that will give us one more bite at the apple, and then that gives us another full week in order for you to do the filing.
Yes, get it signed and filed.
Yes.
That's very doable. Experience shows that when you get too close to a deadline, anything could throw it off. So
okay. So is there anything else that we want to make sure doesn't get lost in on future board meeting agendas? Okay. Then I guess agenda item 11, I will ask for somebody to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Okay, I will second that. Everybody say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay, I will see, I'm sure I will be seeing all of you sometime next week in a meeting.
Good night.
Have a
Tomorrow.
good,
Tomorrow,
yeah,
Tomorrow,
have a good,
you and I tomorrow, security.
okay, great, great. You guys all have a good Memorial Day weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.